Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of A Palette for Love Live. Today I'm going to be talking about the power of words and language and how important it is that we think about how we not only speak to ourselves, but how we also allow others to speak to us. I'm going to be making pork chops, butternut squash mash, and some garlic asparagus. So stay tuned. So I have the pork chop seasoned on both sides. I have some herbs de Provence, salt, pepper, some of my spice blends that I've shown you in the past, the smoked paprika, garlic, chili, and chives one, and also the rosemary, garlic, and sea salt. The butternut squash is already boiling, so it can be nice and tender. That way I can mash it and put some other things in. For now, I have garlic in there and a bay leaf floating around. And my asparagus, I have seasoned with the same rosemary, garlic, sea salt blend, some more garlic, just fresh garlic is my favorite, and red onions. I'm going to put this in the oven now. That way everything can be done at the same time, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So if we think about words and language, verbal communication has always been vital to our species' survival. The indigenous people and First Nations, they were very purposeful and intentional about the names they gave to children because that determined their legacy. It sometimes dictated their positions in the villages, in the society, the roles they would have, and then who they would then grow up to become. Similarly, in our society currently, we label everything, and what we label something determines how we treat that thing. So a chair we sit in because that's what chairs are meant for. That's their purpose, and they're intended to be used in that way. With people, the names that we call each other also have similar indications about how we treat one another. People that are called stupid, we assume have low expectations on them. They have very low or little social capital, and they're sometimes worthy, for lack of a better term, of disrespect. However, when we call someone a friend, there are other implications. There's trust, there's loyalty, there's history, love. A different kind of treatment goes to the people that you may call a friend versus those you call stupid or straight. So we're going to get the pork chops started. I have duck fat melted here in the cast iron skillet. And I'm going to cook these for maybe 3 or 4 minutes on each side and then put them in the oven so that they can stay warm and continue cooking internally until they're finished. With pork, you want to cook it to an internal temperature of about 145 degrees and then let it rest for 3 minutes before slicing into it or eating it. If you don't already cook with herbes de Provence, I highly, highly recommend it. It's good on just about anything. Meat, steak, chicken, potatoes, vegetables. It's such a versatile seasoning blend. There's some lavender in there and a few other things that make it very unique. I'm going to throw some in with the butternut squash also to tie the dish together. So back to the idea of words and language. When a client comes into therapy and they tell me, Dr. Henry, I'm so depressed, I've been depressed all my life, I always ask them, where'd you get that word from? Because most often they don't have a diagnosis from a licensed professional of depression. We use these words so cavalierly in our everyday, language that we don't really appreciate what labeling yourself as depressed could mean. I think that if you're not actually diagnosed as having depression, you need to be very careful about, again, how you talk about yourself, because that could limit your idea about your capability for healing yourself, right? Obviously, it's not as simple as, I want to be healed, so I'm healed. You got to put the work in. But at the same time, if you think about the internal messages that you say to yourself, the internal script that you run through, that could have a very big impact on how you're doing mentally and emotionally. When I do diagnose someone with depression, I try not to say you're depressed. I tell them you're living with depression. That way, it's not something that's a part of their identity. They don't have to own it as who they are, but more so something that they're having to learn how to live with in a way that is, again, healthy and positive for them. That way, it's not like you have this unimaginable, unspeakable thing that you have to overcome, but more so this very imaginable, very tangible thing that appears and maybe goes away and then comes back, but you can learn how to deal with, how to cope with in a way that is realistic for you. I don't think it can be overstated how important words are. My literal career is based off of me using words and language to help people feel like they can overcome difficulties in life and to feel like they're empowered enough to live life they want to and be as healthy as possible. So words really do matter. And if we think about how we would describe ourselves to other people, that should tell you a lot about who you think you are and maybe some of the untapped possibilities for yourself that you're not realizing right now. Before putting the lamb chops in the oven to finish cooking, I basted it with a little bit of butter and some rosemary to again follow up on the dry seasonings that I use in powder form. Putting in fresh herbs and fresh seasonings always helps bring the dish's flavors out that much more. I drained off the water from the butternut squash, got rid of the bay leaf, and I put in a little too much cinnamon, but also some smoked paprika, herbs de Provence, garlic salt, and onion powder. I have this nutmeg that I got from my trip to Zanzibar a few years ago. This is how nutmeg actually grows, and so you have to peel off this flaky shell and then grate the nutmeg like you would any other nutmeg. Now I'm going to pour in some heavy cream and then mash this together. I'm going to taste this and fold in some mascarpone cheese as well, just to give it a more smooth and creamy feel. So the mash is not as smooth as I would like for it to be, but the taste is definitely there. It might have been smoother if I ran it through a blender or used a potato ricer instead of just the potato masher, but I don't mind a few chunks of butternut squash because it just tastes so damn good. The big takeaway here is that words and language can definitely help you lead a healthier and happier life. Words can heal or they can further hurt and harm you. So start with what you believe to be true about yourself. Think about things that are factual, things that are tangible, things that you really, really hold stock in. Add to that some uplifting and encouraging words. Talk to yourself differently. Put Post-its on your mirror if you have to about things that, are uplifting and positive. I know I'm being very redundant. Even tell the people around you that you don't appreciate being called certain things anymore. And think about how the names that you respond to tie into your identity as a person. Follow all that up with actions that then cement those positive words into reality. Here's the finished product of our pan-seared pork chop, oven roasted asparagus with garlic and onion, and our butternut squash hash. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of A Palette for Love Live. Be sure to tune in next Sunday for a new recipe and another discussion about mental health. Bye.